And then there's Candace Parker, a legend in the WNBA, who now on her podcast peeled back the curtain in a compare and contrast between Adam Silver and Kathy Engelbert. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is not going to go well for Kathy. And it doesn't go well for Kathy. And it might be sort of the nail in.
This is where things get really interesting, because what Candace Parker did on her podcast wasn't just a simple opinion. It was a seismic event. She's a legend, a future Hall of Famer, and she decided to peel back the curtain on the leadership or lack thereof inside the WNBA, and she didn't hold back. She drew a direct, brutal comparison between the NBA's commissioner, Adam Silver, and her own boss, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. The result was a takedown so calm, so methodical, that it might have just changed the future of the entire league.
What was interesting was the amount of players that came to the defense of Fee and the crickets that came to the defense of Kathy for me. Adam Silver is Kathy's boss. And he is the commissioner of the NBA. I signed a deal with Amazon to broadcast for Amazon. I got a text from Adam Silver saying congratulations. I had my third child. I got a text from Adam Silver about my third child. Now, whether this is Adam or his assistant, somebody from the league office is reaching out to me. I got a baby gift for my third child. I get a Christmas gift from Adam Silver every year. I retired. Adam Silver sent me a text message that basically congratulated me on my career and how much I've done for the women's game, and he looked forward to how much I'm gonna do from the sideline. I have not heard from Kathy. I saw Kathy in Phoenix after I had been retired for 4 months at Phoenix All-Star Game, and she said congratulations in person. And that was the only time. And so you've heard other players, Sabrina Ionescu alluded to this, I have a better relationship with Adam Silver than I do Kathy. My 2 jersey retirements, there was no Kathy.
Yeah.
So I think that Adam Silver understands the process. I don't know if he understood that Kathy was not doing.
But here's the question I want you to think about. Was Candace out of line for calling out the league's own commissioner on a public platform? Or was she simply the only one with the courage to say what everyone else was already whispering? Let me know your immediate thoughts in the comments below. What unfolded on that podcast was a masterclass in how to expose a leadership gap without ever raising your voice. Candace laid out a series of simple, personal stories that spoke volumes. When she signed her massive broadcasting deal with Amazon, she got a personal congratulatory text from Adam Silver. When she had her third child, Silver reached out again, sending a message and even a baby gift. And when she retired from the game she helped define, another personal message arrived from the NBA commissioner, thanking her for her legacy. Then came the quiet, devastating pivot. Candace revealed that through all these monumental life and career milestones, she heard nothing. Absolutely nothing from Kathy Engelbert. The only acknowledgement came months after her retirement, a casual, in-person congratulations at an all-star event. This wasn't a rant. It was a cold, hard listing of facts, and the contrast was utterly damning.
The league expect this kind of thing. Should they? That's another argument. Maybe not, but the problem is when the commissioner of another league is fulfilling a role and your actual commissioner is not, that's where the perception is all jacked up. And it causes a real problem here.
But the real genius of her approach was in the specifics. She wasn't talking about a missed email or a formal letter. She was highlighting the modern, personal touches that signify a genuine connection in today's world. A text message, a gift for a newborn. These are the gestures that transcend professional obligation and enter the realm of personal respect. She even went out of her way to acknowledge that it might have been Silver's assistant sending those texts, but that's almost the point. Someone in the NBA office had a system, a checklist of humanity, ensuring their legends felt seen. The WNBA office, by stark comparison, had a checklist that was apparently blank. This created a powerful unspoken question in the minds of every listener. If this is how they treat Candace Parker, a player whose legacy is inextricably linked with the league's very survival and growth, what does that say about how they value anyone else? It framed the entire league's leadership not as busy, but as indifferent, setting a tone of institutional ingratitude that resonates far beyond one player's experience.
That's big. I mean, look, and obviously Adam's only going to do that for, I'm sure, certain players, right, of a certain stature level. but he was aware enough to know that Candace Parker was one of the greatest players they ever had in the league and made a point to have some kind of relationship. Again, she even acknowledged some of that might have been an assistant, but he was aware of what was going on.
But why did this particular critique hit so much harder than any other? It all comes down to credibility. This wasn't a disgruntled rookie or fringe player venting. This was Candace Parker, two-time MVP, three-time WNBA champion, finals MVP, an icon who is arguably one of the biggest reasons the WNBA has the mainstream visibility it enjoys today. When a player of that stature speaks, the entire basketball ecosystem listens. And the most powerful part was her delivery. There was no anger, no emotional outburst. She was calm, collected, and precise. That measured tone made her words feel less like an attack and more like an undeniable verdict. It was a quiet confidence of someone stating irrefutable truths, and that's what made it impossible to dismiss.
It's not a good look. It's not. I'm not going to lie to you. If I was commissioner, yeah, you best believe I'm going to have some kind of a back and forth with at least my top 10.
Imagine if a rookie had said this. The narrative would instantly be about entitlement or an inability to handle the professional world. But with Candace, there is no counter-argument about her stature or what she's owed. She has already climbed every mountain the sport has to offer. Her critique comes from a place of pure, unadulterated concern for the league's soul. Furthermore, her credibility is amplified by her current role as a broadcaster. She's now an analyst of the game, not just a participant. This allows her to speak with a dispassionate, observational authority that a current player might fear to wield. She has nothing left to prove and no contract to jeopardize, which liberates her to speak the raw, unfiltered truth. This combination of legendary status, analytical perspective, and calm delivery created a perfect storm of credibility, making her words not just a complaint, but a historical record of failure. And here's the real killer for Commissioner Engelbert. Candace wasn't alone. She revealed that other cornerstone players of the league have had the exact same experience. She named Sabrina Ionescu and Elena Del Don, indicating they've also confirmed they have a better, more communicative relationship with Adam Silver than with their own commissioner. Let that sink in for a second. The boss of a completely different, much larger league has more personal contact with the WNBA's biggest stars than the woman actually running their own organization. It's like your department head never bothering to learn your name, while the CEO of the entire company knows about your kids and your career achievements. This pattern transforms a one-off complaint into a systemic failure, revealing a deep and pervasive culture disconnect at the very top of the WNBA. Think about what this does to player morale across the board. If the stars are feeling this ignored, what hope does a role player have of feeling valued? It creates a trickle-down effect of disillusionment. This isn't just about feeling appreciated. It has practical, competitive implications. When players feel a genuine connection to the league's leadership, they are more likely to be ambassadors, to go the extra mile in promotions, and to believe in the collective mission. When that connection is absent, the relationship becomes purely transactional. Players show up, play their minutes, and collect their checks. But the extra passion that builds legendary brands evaporates. The fact that multiple franchise players corroborated this sentiment proves that the WNBA is potentially leaving passion and loyalty on the table, all because the person at the top fails to understand that her most important job isn't just managing a business, but inspiring a community. This issue goes far deeper than missed text messages or forgotten baby gifts. This strikes at the heart of a fundamental divide between management and true leadership. Adam Silver, following the blueprint of David Stern, operates on a star-building philosophy. He understands that the players are the product, and investing in them personally, making them feel seen and valued, builds unwavering loyalty and a stronger league. Kathy Engelbert, with her background as a CEO at a major corporation, appears to be treating the WNBA as a spreadsheet to be optimized. She's focused on business deals and sponsorships, which are important, but she's completely neglecting the human element that fuels a sports league. And this neglect is even more glaring when you consider the WNBA only has 144 players. For Silver to maintain personal connections across a global organization of 450 players is remarkable. For Engelbert to fail to do so with a much smaller, more tight-knit group is almost inexplicable. This highlights a critical miscalculation in her entire approach. In a large corporation, employees are often cogs in a machine and leadership is distant. But a sports league, especially one as intimate as the WNBA, is a family. The fans know the players' stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. The commissioner is supposed to be the head of that family, the ultimate champion of their narratives. By treating her role as a corporate executive instead of a charismatic leader, Engelbert is creating a vacuum where the players feel orphaned within their own league. This philosophy directly impacts the league's marketability. The NBA's NBA Cares and player-focused marketing works because it feels authentic, built on real relationships. The WNBA's marketing, under this leadership, risks feeling hollow because it's not backed by the personal touch that makes the players believe in themselves. This podcast incident isn't an isolated misstep for Kathy Engelbert. It's the latest in a series of controversies that have painted a picture of a commissioner who is profoundly out of touch with her players. Just weeks earlier, reports surfaced that Connecticut Sun player Dejanai Carrington had blasted Engelbert in an exit interview, accusing commissioners suggesting that rookie sensation Caitlin Clark should just be grateful for the platform the WNBA provides. While Engelbert denied the specific wording, the damage was done. It reinforced a narrative that the league's leadership doesn't truly champion its players' worth. Now, with Candace Parker's calm and credible evisceration piling on top, this feels less like a coincidence and more like a repeating pattern. This is strike two, and in the court of public and player opinion, that's a very dangerous place to be. The Carrington incident was particularly revealing because it touched on the raw nerve of player value and generational respect. It suggested a leadership mindset that views the league as a gift and the players as the recipients, rather than understanding that the players are the league. This creates an us versus them dynamic that is toxic for any organization. When you combine that with the person neglect outlined by Parker, a clear and disturbing profile emerges. A commissioner who seems to view her players as assets to be managed, not partners to be collaborated with. This pattern makes it clear that the problem isn't a single oversight. It's a deeply ingrained leadership style that is fundamentally incompatible with the culture of professional sports. Every day that passes without a radical, visible shift in this approach digs a hole deeper, cementing the perception that the league's top office is its own greatest obstacle. All of this is happening at the worst possible time, because the WNBA is currently experiencing its most explosive growth in history. We're seeing record ticket sales, unprecedented TV ratings, and a level of social media buzz that the league has never seen before, driven by phenomenal new stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Aya Wilson. This is the moment to capitalize, to unite everyone and ride this wave to a new level of success. But instead, the league is being bogged down by self-inflicted leadership drama. Fans have noticed Engelbert's consistent silence during other firestorms, like the intense physical treatment of Caitlin Clark and widespread player complaints about inconsistent refereeing. Her signature move seems to be disappearing when major issues hit. Candace Parker's comments confirm the fans' and players' worst fear. At its peak, the league is being led by someone who doesn't know how to connect with the very people who make it great. This creates a terrifying scenario where the league's external success is being undermined by its internal decay. The momentum is real, but it's fragile. New fans drawn in by the Clark and Reese rivalry are met with headlines about a disconnected commissioner, which can sour the entire experience. Potential sponsors looking to invest see a league where the leadership is publicly criticized by its most important assets, creating a reputational risk. This is a pivotal window of opportunity, and the greatest threat isn't from outside competition. It's from an internal failure to lead with passion, empathy, and visibility. The players are doing their part, creating must-see TV every night. The question now is whether the person in charge can finally step up and match their energy, or become the reason this historic moment is remembered with a footnote of what could have been. So where does this leave Kathy Engelbert? Frankly, on incredibly thin ice. When a legend like Candace Parker opens a door like this, it gives permission for other major voices to speak up. Don't be surprised if veterans like Sue Bird or Diana Taurasi soon share similar stories. Once that cascade begins, the owners and corporate sponsors will inevitably lose confidence. Even Adam Silver has subtly acknowledged the problem, publicly stating that the WNBA's issues are personnel-related and about fixing relationships. When your boss's boss is hinting at the problem, the writing is on the wall. Candace didn't just point out the problem. She offered the solution by highlighting the NBA's blueprint. It's about building genuine partnerships, actively recognizing your stars, and treating players as essential collaborators, not just employees on a payroll. But let's be clear about what incredibly thin ice actually means in the brutal world of professional sports. This isn't just about bad press for a week. This is a fundamental crisis of confidence that strikes at the very legitimacy of her leadership. Think of it like this. A commissioner's power isn't derived solely from a contract. It's derived from the consent of the governed, the players, the coaches, and the owners who must believe that person is the right pilot to fly the plane. Right now, the passengers are openly questioning the pilot's ability to even read the instruments, and they're telling everyone on the ground about it. The Candace Parker episode wasn't a minor blip of turbulence. It was a massive engine failure reported live from the cabin. The most immediate danger for Engelbert is the domino effect. Candace Parker is the first domino, and she has fallen with immense force. The next dominoes are the other veteran players, the ones with the social capital and career security to speak truth, to power, without fear of reprisal. A player like Sue Bird, whose voice carries generational weight and who has seen commissioners come and go, could deliver a final, crushing blow simply by saying, "I've experienced the same thing." Or Diana Taurasi, known for her unfiltered honesty, could echo the sentiment in a post-game press conference, sending the story spiraling to the sports news cycle all over again. This isn't just speculation. It's the predictable pattern of how these leadership crises unfold. Once the fear is broken, the floodgates often open. We're already seeing cracks with the mentions of Sabrina Ionescu and Elena Del Don. The next step is direct on-the-record accounts, and each one will be another nail in the coffin of Engelbert's credibility. Then come the owners. This is a business, first and foremost, and the team owners are investors in the WNBA product. Their primary concern is value, the value of their franchises, their ticket sales, and their brand. Right now, the league's product is hotter than ever, but the central office is being portrayed as dysfunctional. For an owner, this is a nightmare scenario. They are trying to market their teams, negotiate local TV deals, and sell season tickets, all while the league's headline is a civil war between its greatest icons and its commissioner. Owners do not like instability. They don't like controversy that overshadows the game. When a figure as respected as Candace Parker implicitly suggests that the league's leadership is failing its players, owners start to ask very hard, very financial questions. Is Kathy Engelbert an asset or a liability? Is her leadership style helping us grow, or is it creating a ceiling on our potential? When those questions start being asked in boardrooms, the commissioner's seat becomes very, very hot, and we cannot overlook the corporate sponsors. Companies like Google, Nike, and CarMax are investing millions into the WNBA because of its positive, empowering image and its skyrocketing visibility. But corporations are famously risk-averse. They associate their brand with leagues that are seen as stable, professional, and unified. The moment a league appears to be fractured, with public infighting and a mutiny of its star players, sponsors get nervous. The last thing a marketing executive wants is to have their product associated with a messy internal conflict. They signed up for the highlight reels and the inspiring stories, not for drama about a disconnected commissioner. If the player discontent continues to make headlines, it's only a matter of time before sponsors privately, or even publicly, express their concerns to the league office. And in the hierarchy of problems, losing money talks the loudest of all. A commissioner who costs the league sponsorship revenue won't be a commissioner for long. This is why Adam Silver's comments are so profoundly significant. He is the ultimate boss, the one who presides over both the NBA and the WNBA. His recent statement that the tension in the WNBA is personnel-related and about fixing relationships wasn't an offhand remark. It was a deliberate public message. It was a corporate equivalent of a warning shot across the bow. He's not going to come out and say, Kathy is doing a bad job, but by explicitly identifying personnel and relationships as the core issue, he is directly validating the very critique that Candace Parker made. He is confirming that the problem lies with the people in charge and their inability to connect with the players. This removes all doubt. This isn't just the players complaining. This is the league's ultimate authority figure acknowledging the systemic failure. For Engelbert, having your superior confirm your biggest weakness in public is the beginning of the end. The writing isn't just on the wall. It's being projected in high definition for the entire world to see. So what is the way out? Is there any path to redemption for Kathy Engelbert? Theoretically, yes, but it would require a radical, immediate, and very public transformation, a complete 180-degree pivot from her established corporate persona. She would need to embark on what could only be described as a listening tour, but one with tangible actions, not just photo ops. She would need to personally visit every team, not for a formal speech, but for real, unstructured conversations with players. She would need to acknowledge the failure head-on, perhaps in a joint press conference with Candace Parker and other veterans, admitting that the personal touch has been lacking and outlining a concrete plan to change it. This plan would need to include formalized touch points for every player in the league, check-ins during career milestones, recognition of personal achievements, and a visible presence in the locker rooms and on the road. She would have to fire the PR and player relations staff who allowed this disconnect to fester and hire people with deep ties to the player community. But let's be realistic. Such a transformation is incredibly rare. It requires a level of humility and interpersonal skill that, based on the overwhelming evidence, may not be in her leadership toolkit. Her entire background is in corporate management, not community building. It's far more likely that we will see a period of defensive silence, followed by a few token gestures that feel too little, too late. The league might put out a statement praising Candace's legacy, or Engelbert might suddenly appear at more games. But these actions will be seen for what they are: reactive, not proactive. The trust is already broken. And in the world of sports, once the players have decided you don't have their back, it's almost impossible to win it back. The perception is set in stone. Engelbert is a corporate CEO who never learned to love a game or the people who play it. Therefore, the most probable outcome is a slow, or perhaps not so slow, orchestrated exit. The owners, in consultation with Adam Silver, will likely decide that the league's momentum is too precious to be jeopardized by a leadership crisis. They will calculate that replacing Engelbert, even with the temporary disruption it causes, is a better option than allowing the player discontent to fester and potentially derail the next media rights deal or collective bargaining agreement. Her departure would be framed as a mutual decision or a transition to new leadership, allowing her to save face while the league resets. The search would immediately begin for a new commissioner, someone with deep ties to the basketball world, perhaps a former player themselves, someone who understands intuitively that their primary job is to be the #1 champion for players, both in the boardroom and in their text messages. The Candace Parker podcast may well be remembered not just as critique, but as the event that cleared the way for the leader the WNBA truly needs to seize its historic moment. The ice isn't just cracking, it is already shattered. And the only question now is how long it will take for those in charge to acknowledge that the water is rising. In the end, Candace Parker's podcast appearance was more than just an interview. It was a power shift. She didn't scream for a resignation. She didn't need to. By calmly and credibly exposing profound disconnect between the league's leadership and its players, she started a conversation that simply cannot be unheard. She proved that the WNBA has outgrown a corporate management style and desperately needs a leader who understands that sports are built on emotion, relationship, and respect. The players are no longer waiting to be seen. They are now demanding a commissioner who actually listens. This was a landmark moment in athlete empowerment. For decades, the dynamic in professional sports was clear. Management held all the cards, and players were expected to be grateful for the opportunity. If you had a grievance, you took it through private, formal channels. And if you spoke out publicly, you were labeled a problem, a distraction. But the modern era has completely rewritten those rules. Social media gave athletes a direct microphone to their fans, and platforms like podcasts gave them the space to elaborate, to provide context, and to speak in their own unfiltered voice. Candace Parker didn't file a formal complaint to a human resources department that may or may not act on it. She took her case directly to the court of public opinion, and she did so with evidence that was both relatable and damning. This is a new reality for sports executives. Your employees are also broadcasters, influencers, and storytellers. The walls of the front office are no longer opaque. They are made of glass, and the players are holding spotlights. Engelbert wasn't just being criticized. She was being outflanked by a new form of media power that she clearly doesn't know how to combat. So what happens next? The path forward is fraught with complexity, but it boils down to two fundamental questions. First, should Adam Silver take a more direct role? And second, is there any possible way for Kathy Engelbert to regain the trust she has so clearly lost? Let's explore the first option. Adam Silver stepping in is not as simple as him just firing Engelbert and appointing a replacement. The WNBA is a separate entity, with its own board of governors comprised of the team owners. Silver's influence is immense, but it is largely persuasive. However, his recent comments are a clear signal that his patience is wearing thin. A more direct role could look a few different ways. He could orchestrate a soft coup, quietly rallying the owners to vote for a change in leadership, presenting it as a necessary business decision to protect the league's soaring valuation. He could install a special advisor, perhaps a beloved NBA executive or a former WNBA legend, to essentially shadow Engelbert and oversee player relations, effectively sidelining her without a messy public firing. Or, in the most dramatic scenario, he could leverage the NBA's vast resources to essentially force a merger of certain operations, arguing that the WNBA's relationship issues require the NBA's institutional knowledge and diplomatic touch. The upside here is clear. It would be a decisive action that the players would likely applaud. It would signal that the NBA parent company is listening and is committed to fixing the problem at the highest level. The downside is that it could be seen as an overreach, reinforcing a paternalistic narrative that the WNBA can't manage its own affairs. It's a powerful card to play, and Silver will likely only play it if the internal pressure from owners becomes too great to ignore. Now, let's consider the nearly impossible second path, a redemption arc for Kathy Engelbert. Can she possibly turn this around? Theoretically, yes, but the window for action is microscopic and closing fast. It would require a level of public contrition and behavioral change that is rare in any high-level executive. She couldn't just issue a written apology. That would be seen as weak and corporate. She would need to stage a public mea culpa, perhaps in a one-on-one interview with a respected journalist, where she doesn't just express regret, but explicitly acknowledges the specific failures Candace outlined. I failed to personally congratulate Candace Parker on her retirement, and that was a mistake that reflected a larger failure in my approach. She would then need to immediately and visibly implement a new operational philosophy. This means not just calling Sue Bird or Diana Taurasi, but showing up unannounced at team practices, not for a photo op, but to just watch and listen. It means creating a formal, transparent system for player communication, where top players have a direct number and a guaranteed response time. It means being the first face you see at a jersey retirement, not a conspicuous absence. She would have to fire the advisors who insulated her from this reality and hire people from within the basketball community who can rebuild bridges she burned. Essentially, she would have to stop being a CEO and start being a mayor, a visible, accessible, empathetic figure who walks the streets of her city every single day. The probability of this happening? Vanishingly small. The habits of a lifetime, especially a successful one in the corporate world, are almost impossible to break under such intense public pressure. The more likely outcome is a retreat into bunker mentality, leading to an inevitable, slow-motion departure. The future of the league might just depend on the answer, because this isn't just about one job. It's about the soul of the league at its most critical juncture. The WNBA is navigating a cultural transformation. It's no longer a niche sports league. It's a touchstone in conversations about gender, sport, and equality. It needs a leader who isn't just a manager of spreadsheets, but a visionary who can harness the raw, electric energy of this moment and channel it into a lasting legacy. This leader needs to be a diplomat who can negotiate a landmark new collective bargaining agreement with players who now feel more empowered than ever. They need to be a storyteller who can articulate the league's value to billion-dollar media companies for the next TV rights deal. And most importantly, they need to be a shepherd who protects, guides, and celebrates the incredible athletes who are, quite literally, making history every time they step on the court. What Candace Parker ultimately did was accelerate the timeline. She exposed a rotting foundation just as the league was trying to build its tallest skyscraper. The owners now have a choice. Continue building on that shaky foundation and risk a catastrophic collapse later, or pause, replace the foundation, and ensure the structure can stand for generations. The players have made their choice clear. They are ready for a partner, not a superior. They are ready for a leader who gets it. This is the new balance of power. The players have the platform, the credibility, and a unified voice. The question is no longer if change will come, but when. The podcast was a starting pistol. The race for the soul of the WNBA is now officially on. Let me know what you think the solution is in the comments. Do you believe a leader can truly change their stripes so dramatically? Or is a fresh start the only viable path forward? If this deep dive into the WNBA's internal battle surprised you, or if you've been feeling this disconnect as a fan all along, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content you won't find anywhere.